Alright guys, so today we are working on the review for the quiz. Some time got cut short today, so I want to make sure that we did this. First of all, when it says write it in standard form, that means I want it from increasing to decreasing. And the first thing you need to remember is how to write these. We need to write the factors as x minus a, and all these numbers are a's. So this would be x minus 0, x minus 2, and x minus 2. This would be x minus 3, x minus negative 2, and x minus 5. And as you're probably seeing when I did minus a negative, we can just make that a plus. Which makes sense, because if I said find the zeros, you would just take the opposites of these. So let me go here. This is x times, I'm going to FOIL this out. X minus 0 is x, that's why I did that. X squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. And then just distribute the x. You know what though? Actually, I'm going to combine my like terms first. X times x squared minus 4x plus 4. And now distribute the x through. And I get x cubed minus 4x squared plus 4x as my solution. Similarly here, I'm going to just FOIL these out first. I'm going to get x squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 6 times x minus 5. And then I'm going to combine my like terms similarly right here. And then I'm going to multiply every term here with every term there. So I'm going to take the x and distribute it first. X cubed minus 1x squared minus 6x. And then I'm going to distribute the 5. And I'm going to line things up. Matter of fact, no, I'm not. I'm just going to go minus 5x squared plus 5x, because negative times a negative, and then plus 30. Okay. And now from there, I need to combine my like terms. So I'm going to combine my negative 1x squared and this. I've got x cubed, that was by itself, minus 6x squared. I've got a negative 6x and a positive 5x to give me minus 1x, or just minus x, plus 30. And that's it. That's my solution. Okay. Now, when I go to graph these, first thing I got to do is find the zeros. Well, to find the zeros of this, again, we set each term, let me go right here, set each term equal to 0. So I would set x plus 3 equal to 0, x minus 4 equal to 0, and x plus 5 equal to 0, and do the opposites. That's how I get negative 3, positive 4, and negative 5. I'll come back to the rest. I'm going to do the same thing here. X equals 0, 2x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. Well, here I already got 0. Here I already get 5. Here I would minus 3 first, and then divide to get negative 3 halves, also known as negative 1.5, right? Then I got to determine whether it's even or odd, and that is again dependent on the exponent. This is 4. When there's nothing there, it's 1. When there's nothing there, it's 1. So 4 is an even number, 1 is an odd number, and 1 again is an odd number. Similarly, there's nothing here, so that is 1 odd, and both of those are even exponents, so they are even at that point. And the reason we want to know that is because odd goes through and even bounces off. Okay, so I'm going to plot these points. I got negative 3 right here, negative 5 right here, and 4 right here. Okay, here I've got 0, I got negative 3 halves, which is negative 1.5, and then I've got 5. Now, I need to be careful here. The first thing I need to do is talk about the total power, the total number of exponents. So 4 plus 1 is 6. And the total over here is 1 plus 2 plus 4, which is 7. Okay? So, with that being said, I know that even total power, starts up and ends up. I know that odd total power starts down and ends up. They always end up as long as there's no negatives there, and I'm not going to do that to you on the quiz or the test. So for this one, I know I got to start up here, I need to end up here. For this one, I know I need to start down here, and I need to end up here. Okay? Now, from there, let's move this up just a touch here. I'm going to go up to every point, and what I want you to recognize is right here. Sorry, I even drew that in the wrong spot. I should be starting over here. This is not negative 3. So I'm not going to bounce off this point, even though negative 3 says even. That's here that I have to bounce off. Negative 5 is this point here. I need to go right through it. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to come to negative 3 next, which is even. So I'm going to bounce off it, and I could go down as far as I want to go. It doesn't matter. I'm going to bounce off of this one, and I'm going to come all the way over here to 4, and it's odd, so I go through it, and sure enough, I end up like I want to end up. Same thing on the next one. I know I'm starting down. I got to look. My first one is negative 3/2. That's even, so I got to bounce off it. Be careful again. If you write these in order, a lot of people try and go through it because they see the first one is odd, but the first one is 0, and that's that point right there. So I'm bouncing off negative 3/2. I'm coming to 0, and because it's odd, I got to go through it, and then I got to go up to 4 or to 5, excuse me, and it's even. So I bounce off it again and come up like that. Okay? Now it's a matter of using the x-intercepts to find the positive and negative intervals. So my x-intercepts, again, in order now, are negative 5, negative 3, and positive 4. And then I just determine whether they are above the x-axis or below the x-axis. So the stuff up here is positive, the stuff down here is negative. So from negative infinity to negative 5, it's above the axis. From negative 5 to negative 3, it's below. From negative 3 to 4, it's below, and from 4 to infinity, it's above. And wherever you see positives, that's positive, negative infinity to negative 5. Wherever you see negatives, it's negative. And again, I see another positive there from 4 to infinity. Okay. Similarly, I'm going to do this one a little bit faster here. I've got negative 3/2, I've got 0, and I've got 5. It is negative before, it is negative between, it is positive between, it is positive. So my positive intervals are from 0 to 5 and from 5 to infinity. My negative intervals are from negative infinity to negative 3/2 and from negative 3/2 to 0. Now, on the bottom here, I'm going to factor these polynomials and find the zeros. Always want to look for GCF first. And I'm telling you this because it's going to be like this on the quiz too. Here I'm going to factor a 3 and an x out of every term, and that has to be part of my solution here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just divide the 3x out. I get x squared, I get plus 6x. You might need a calculator for that. That's negative 16. Then I can factor it further. This is equal to 0 still because I am solving this. That means find the zeros, etc. X and x plus 8 minus 2 will give me the plus 6 I need. And then I set again each of these terms equal to 0. And if I do that, I divide by 3 here to get x equals 0. I subtract 8 there to get negative 8. And I add 2 there to get positive 2. And there is my solution. So keep in mind again, not just factor, also find the zeros. On this one, the only GCF is x. When I divide an x out here, I get 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. I can factor that. What I know here is some of you struggle with this, but I know I have 2x and x, and I know I only have 1 and 3. So it's either 1, 3 or 3, 1. And be careful here, because if you put 1 and 3, you would get a 6 minus a 1, but you would not get a negative here because it would have to be 1 negative, 1 positive to get to negative 5. So the right way is 1 here and 3 here. Actually, no, it's not, because that again would give me 3 and 2, which is 5. But if they're both negative, I won't get a negative there, so I screwed that up anyway. This is a 1. This is the 3. I get negative 3 plus 1. That gives me negative 5, and it will give me a negative 3 when I multiply the last terms. Now again, I set these all equal to 0, so I get x equals 0. For this one, again, 2x plus 1 equals 0. I would minus the 1 first, and then divide to get negative 1/2 and 3. And there's my 2 solutions, my 3 solutions there. Next page. Now, this is very similar to the previous page what I had done. I am just going to be going through and listing the zeros, which are already listed for me. Negative 4, 0, 2, and 4. Again, the zeros are where it goes through the x-axis. So I'm going to put those numbers here, 0, 2, and 4. And I've already forgotten something. It says list of zeros and multiplicity. Multiplicity is just even or odd. So negative 4, it bounces off, so that's even, because it always bounces there. It goes through, it goes through, it goes through. So all of these are odd. Okay, the positive intervals are above the x-axis again, so I see that from 0 to 2, and from 4 to infinity, as I look at it here. And again, I could just do it from here. Negative, negative, positive, negative, positive, and just look where it says it. I've already filled in my two positives. My negatives would be here, and from negative 4 to 0, and from 2 to 4. Okay? My local maxima and my local minima, they are what I would consider hills and valleys. Or, if you prefer, vertexes. Okay? I see a vertex here, 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 or a hill or a valley. Okay? My local maximum and minimum are based on that. Now you can write those as points if you want, or you can just write them as x values. My first one's at negative 4, my second one is like negative 2.8. My third one, which is, I'm sorry, I totally messed that up, negative 2.8 is a minima, right? 4 is a maxima, negative 4, I had that right. A minima at x equals negative 2.8, the maxima at 1, and another minima at 3. Okay? Now I'm going to list all of those. This is just a line to help you here. I got negative 4, negative 2.8, 1, and 3. Notice these, some of these, yes, negative 4 is the same on both, but the rest of these are not the same as the zeros. They are the bottoms and tops of the hills. So I'm going to think from negative infinity to infinity, and I'm just going to talk about how this is increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing, increasing. So it's going uphill, then downhill, then uphill, then downhill, then uphill. And increasing is going uphill, so I'm going to write all those first. There's another uphill from negative 2.8 to 1, and from 3 to infinity. And then the decreasing intervals would be from negative 4, again the down arrows, to negative 2.8, and from 1 to 3. And there's that. Now down to the factoring problems down below. Okay. Each one of these can be factored. Always think GCF first if you can. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, we're going to have something there. We'll get to it. Right here, this you should recognize as difference of squares. X plus 9, x minus 9. All of this is from 6.2 if you want to go back and look at those notes. If you could take a square root of each term and it's a minus sign, you got difference of squares. So similarly here, I can square root that and get 4x. I can square root that and get 5. So it's plus that and minus that. That's it. That's your answer for that one. Okay. For this problem, you need to know the AB thing. Now again, the AB thing is that, and if it is positive, like if it starts with a plus sign like this one does, then it's same, opposite, plus. If it's a minus sign, it's same, opposite, plus. It's always same, opposite, plus. So for this, I can cube root each one of these terms, so I know it's the AB thing. The cube root of the first one is x, the cube root of the second one is 4. I always put my signs in later. Then I need to square that term, multiply those two terms together, and square that term. And that's it. Then it's just same, opposite, plus. Done. Same thing here. I can cube root that, and I get 2x. I can cube root that, and I get 5. Square this term, and that means 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. Multiply them together, 10x. That squared is 25, and it is same, opposite, plus. Done. On the bottom, remember that I said that treat the x to the fourth problems like it's x squared and x. So I'd have an x and an x. The factors of 90, that'll give me 1 are 9 and 10. I'd get plus 9 and minus 10, and then the only thing difference is just to throw a squared on each one of those terms. Now, you have to take this further, and you're on the quiz going to have to take it further as well. That's why you have this problem, because this is x plus 3, x minus 3, and then the x squared plus 10 just comes along for the ride. Okay? On this problem here, this is one of those grouping problems, and the last problem on the quiz, just like it's the last problem on here, is a grouping problem, which means we group these together, and we group these together based on the GCF. What do they have in common? Well, they can pull out an x squared. If I pull it out of here, I get x minus 8. Right here, what do they have in common? Well, just 4, so plus 4 times x minus 8. What they have in common is one factor. What's left is the other factor. And that's it for that too. Now, if that was an x squared minus 4, I would factor it down to x plus 2x minus 2, but it's not. Okay. That has been your quiz review hopefully you watch this and learn something from it. Make sure you come with questions tomorrow.